I was wondering what would happen if we made Plessy much bigger in Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. What would happen if we stretched Plessy into all kinds of shapes and sizes? I've done this with Goombas, Bowser, and Bowser Jr. in past videos, so now it is Plessy's turn. When Plessy is double regular size, you might notice that the shadows look a bit strange, but once we start going down the river, things don't look very obviously different. Mario is just looking a little small compared to Plessy, and Plessy can still fit through the little tunnels here. I made a thicker Plessy who's starting to clip through the walls on the side, and it's even more obvious that the shadows on the tail are strange now. I do a spin jump and dive to make it onto Plessy's back, and Plessy almost takes up the entire width of the river now. And when Plessy jumps, it looks like an airplane. In my video where we made Bowser Jr. bigger and stretched him out, we had the Bowser Jr. Express, but we now have the Plessy 747, taking us on a flight away from the Mushroom Kingdom. So let's see what happens when we go to head through this tunnel. And we could make it through this tunnel without any problems, despite how wide we are. And even if you make Plessy a lot wider, you can still head through this tunnel, and you can see some interesting results of what that looks like. At 10 times regular size, Plessy is starting to fill up the starting area of the level. In the actual level, when we load up the game, we are met with Plessy's feet, and when Plessy turns around, we see what looks like part of a giant Charmander. Plessy is now getting too high to reach, and Mario can't make it onto Plessy's back. I tried adding a trampoline here so he could bounce up onto Plessy's back, but as we saw in my video where we played this level with my Zero Gravity mod, there's an invisible ceiling here that prevents Mario from going that high. Even if you put the trampoline right under Plessy, you still can't go high enough to make it onto Plessy because you're being pushed down by the invisible ceiling. So I thought, hey, let's add a warp box that lets Mario drop down onto Plessy. Falling straight down onto Plessy will be a lot easier than using a trampoline or building stairs and trying to make it up onto Plessy's back. But the problem with this was, once you make it high enough to get onto Plessy, Plessy doesn't load until you're so low that you're already past Plessy. I was thinking that going to Scamper Shores in Bowser's Fury could give us a better scale of how big Plessy is, and it'll also be easier to get onto Plessy. So here's regular Plessy, and Plessy at 10 times normal size. To get onto Plessy's back, I basically have to climb to the top of Scamper Shores and use the propeller box to get there. We are told to hop on Plessy and head towards the goal. You'll also notice that Mario keeps the propeller box because Plessy from Super Mario 3D World isn't programmed to make you lose the propeller box when you hop on. But Plessy from Bowser's Fury is programmed to make you lose the propeller box when you hop on Plessy. So we have Propeller Box Cat Mario riding on a giant Plessy through Lake Lab Cat. And from time to time, if you look back, you can see some other Plessys turning their heads as you pass by, thinking, man, that is a big Plessy. From this weird camera angle that partially clips through Plessy sometimes, you can see that our Plessy's legs are bigger than a normal Plessy is. At 50 times normal size, Plessy is starting to make Fury Bowser look small. These Fury Bowsers and shells that you're seeing right now in Spotlight are the normal spots where Fury Bowser appears when he's attacking you at Scamper Shores. When we load up the actual game with Plessy this big, Plessy's tail is almost as big as First Step Island now. I tried making Plessy 100 times as big as normal. Here is Plessy's foot compared to a normal-sized Plessy. And from certain camera angles, Plessy doesn't load in the game. I added a tiny Plessy at the start of Bowser's Fury, right before we meet Bowser Jr. Mario hops onto this little Plessy, and I think it's hilarious to see Mario on such a tiny Plessy. Hop on Plessy and head for the goal! Both Mario and Plessy have looks of pure bliss on their faces. They are so happy right now. Plessy runs along, jumps up high, and you hear the theme that plays when you ride on Plessy. But this Plessy can't make it over the water to the next island, and Bowser Jr. looks terrified in the background. He's yelling out for help. And to be fair, he sees Mario riding on a tiny dinosaur facing in his direction. There's a good reason to be scared when you see something like this coming towards you. I was wondering what would happen if you triggered the Bowser Jr. cutscene while you were on a tiny Plessy, because I thought it would be hilarious. But you just lose control once you move past the cutscene trigger, and you can't jump or move anymore when you're in this state. I tried using a Plessy from Bowser's Fury instead of a Super Mario 3D World Plessy, and the same thing happened. You lose control once you pass by the cutscene trigger. But if you're going fast enough, you'll keep going and you'll make it into the goop. And Plessy runs away when you get into the goop, and Mario will take damage and you turn around. And after Mario's iframes wear off, you're brought over to the cutscene because you're on the ground. It's weird seeing Mario walk over from this side when we know that he was just in the goop back there. Who is this little Mario? This little Mario is an imposter! After this cutscene, our little Mario decides to hop onto a Plessie that is 1/10 of its normal size. And here's the little Plessie with little Mario compared to a normal-sized Plessie. You might be wondering what Plessie at 1% of its regular size looks like. You see that big shadow that's surrounded by catbirds? That's Plessie. I'm really hoping those catbirds aren't thinking about eating our Plessie. When Mario is sitting on this Plessie and getting ready to go, you can't really see Plessie, and what Mario is doing right now looks really similar to my video where I gave Mario the wrong animations in Bowser's Fury. So Mario was riding on this little Plessie, and I was looking for where this Plessie was because I couldn't see Plessie. I was checking different camera angles, not being able to find Plessie, when finally... Yes, that is Plessie. Plessie is right there. You can't make this stuff up. All I could do was bury my face in my palms and shake my head. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed at how high this Plessie can jump despite how small it is compared to Mario. I tried keeping Plessie very small like this in most dimensions, but making it very vertically stretched. You end up seeing just a string when you load the game again. I was wondering if I could get on this Plessie. I tried getting a propeller box and hopping on, and this is what happened. Oh my goodness, that tail looks so weird. Hop on Plessie and head for the goal. I don't think I will. I think I'm too terrified to head for any goal right now. I think anyone who sees this image would immediately recognize it as Plessie. This picture is just so obviously Mario riding on Plessie. I was wondering what it would look like if we made Plessie paper thin in the game, because it looked fun and friendly in Spotlight, and when I loaded up the actual game, that is not at all what I was expecting. This is what it would look like if you got Plessie from Wish.com. That is some nightmare fuel if I have ever seen any. I wanted to get on Plessie, and just like before, I had to go get the propeller box to be able to make it up this high. Thankfully, once we get on Plessie, it's much less cursed. It's like we're riding on a Plessie billboard cutout. When I stretched out Plessie on the other axis, it looked like they were experiencing some technical difficulties by trying to stay in this dimension. Next, we needed a pancake Plessie, who is normal on the Y-axis, but stretched on the X-axis, and stretched on the Z-axis. My favorite part about this was how Mario was rocking from side to side when he first got on Plessie. It almost looks like he's going to fall over. And once we started moving, I did not expect this. The camera was completely messed up, and I had no idea where I was or what was going on. Eventually, after struggling in the waves and moving around a bit, we ended up under the goop somehow, which is very different from my video a few weeks ago where I showed what happens if you remove the goop from Bowser's Fury. Next, I wanted a Plessie that was 50 times as wide as normal. So here's what we got. We are underneath Plessie right now, and I wasn't sure where we should even go for the game to consider us to be on top of Plessie, so I got the propeller box. Luckily, I found the right spot very quickly. And Mario's side-to-side rocking is even more exaggerated now. I love this so much. I'm getting worried that Mario might fall off Plessie. Once we start moving, Mario is spinning like mad, and in all of the chaos that's going on, I don't even know what happens. Mario gets hit and loses his propeller box somehow, and when you jump, you fly back and forth. This is completely wild, we're not going anywhere, and here's how much space our Plessie covers. Isn't that great? Plessie reaches far and wide in Lake Lapcat. Here is a normal Plessie as a break, but once they fall through the ground. And yes, with some practice, you can get onto this Plessie before it falls into the ground. Here is Plessie at 1,000 times as wide as normal. Once we get on, we rock back and forth pretty quickly, and even Bowser Jr. has trouble keeping up with us. Instead of heading for the goal like the game suggests, I think it might be difficult to even hold on to Plessie for Mario right now. And once we start moving, instead of traveling through Lake Lapcat on Plessie, Mario is now traveling to another dimension through a warp tube. These cat Cheep Cheeps are just as shocked as I am. They can't believe their eyes right now. Bowser Jr. is out there trying to break open the tube and rescue Mario before he is sucked into another dimension. I tried making Plessie 1,000 times as wide and 1,000 times as long, and when I got to Scamper Shores, I was wondering why the sky was looking a little dark and stormy. Are these dark clouds giving us some kind of premonition of what is to come? And that's when I realized, those aren't clouds up there. I climbed up to the top of Scamper Shores, and I realized that is Plessie. It's all Plessie. All the way around Lake Lapcat. At 100,000 times as wide as normal, Plessie extends as far as the eye can see, covering most of Lake Lapcat like a blanket. and at 1,000,000 times as wide as normal, it looks like a large thunderstorm is brewing above Lake Lapcat, and Lake Lapcat is officially renamed Lake Plessy. You might have heard of the floor is lava, but over here, the floor is Plessy. If there are any more different shapes and sizes of Plessy that you'd like to see me do that weren't done in this video, you could let me know in a comment, and you could follow my Twitter where I often post short clips of quick changes to games like this. We also just reached 50,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, which is pretty unbelievable, and I'm really glad that people are getting value out of the content. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the content that I'm making, and thanks so much for taking the time to click that subscribe button. I really appreciate that. We'll be doing some fun stuff to celebrate this huge milestone. I hope that you all have a fantastic day ahead of you, and take care, everybody.